This is the AJ40, Dan Gurney, 1967 24-hour Le Mans winner, Ford GT Mark IV, the number 1 in red. AJ40 also placed second in a Mark II, in a Mark IIB, a Ford GT Mark IIB, at the 12 Hours of Sebring in that same year, I believe. AJ40 is one of my all-time favorite race car drivers, and of course, legend in Indy cars and NASCAR and endurance racing. I'm driving this at 12 volts for the same reason that I'm being forced to drive all of my Mega G Plus really fast cars almost exclusively in 12 volts, because they simply don't stay on the track very well at 22 volts with this AFX 120 ohm controller, which is like an on-off switch. Can't really control it, and my track has a lot of winding curves, so you pick up speed, and with the level of magnets I'm using, I say this almost every video that I'm driving a Mega G Plus. They're one of my favorite cars, one of my favorite chassis that I've driven. I'm not that experienced, but I've driven the Extraction, the 4-gear, which I really like the 4-gear, the Jag 227, and the Tyco 440x2, Magnum and regular. Magnum and regular 440x2, and really the Mega G Plus of all of those is one of my favorites. It's probably my first or second favorite. But I need better magnets so I can drive faster. And I plan to upgrade all of my cars with better magnets. All the Mega G Plus anyway, with better magnets. I'm working my way through my present collection so that I can ultimately determine what upgrades and modifications I want to make, and that type of thing. And before we move on to higher levels here, I have 40 or so slack cars right now in my collection. And it's a mix. I would say half of them are AFX, and then I have a few Tycos, a couple of Jags, a couple of Extraction, and about 5 or 6, maybe 7 4-gear from Outer World. And when I say Extraction, I mean Outer World Extraction. And that's it. That's the 5-minute time trial. We're going to see how I ran. This wasn't a very fast run. I was taking it easy, but it's just I'm doing this as a baseline for all of my cars to then move on to higher things. I plan to do, of course, more drag races, which I did one the other day. There's a video up on the website for that. And those are going to be mostly the 4G, the 4-gear cars. But with the F1s and the racing cars and the AFX Mega G Plus and Jag cars that I have and Tyco cars, I essentially plan to continue time trials and racing them. And what I want to do with them is move up. Like I'll do after this, we'll skim out the very fastest ones, and then I'll do whatever upgrades I want on them, and then I'll put them through a more difficult test, and so on. And that's how I progress, to give this some structure, because every once in a while, almost on a weekly, certainly basis, several times a week, if not every day, I drive these cars on my own without the camera running, and I enjoy it because it relaxes me and whatnot. So, but as far as my videos are concerned, I want them to have some structure, and I enjoy the time trials and the lap counting and seeing and testing their speed and whatnot, and the reliability and manageability on the track. So, and at some point, I'm going to have races where multiple cars on the track, 2 cars on the track, and racing them, like with the drag race, which I run myself, and it's hard, but because you got to handle both controllers at once. But I enjoy doing that, and you know, the drag races, the thing is that I don't have a very good way to stop the cars once they reach peak velocity, and so I got to be very careful and provide a real soft place for them to land. Right now I'm using some very soft plastic pylons to stop them, and they seem to work real well. In any case, let me get back with the statistics on this car and see how fast it ran. Be right back. Okay, here we go. The Ford GT40 Mark IV, 1967, Dan Gurney AJ Foyt model, the red #1 that won the 1967 24 Hours of Le Mans. We took it pretty easy on this car. It did de-slot once over on that end of the track over there. I've edited that out as usual, as best I can. You may notice it on the video. And essentially this car did 26 laps in 4 minutes and 51.09 seconds. And with the last lap being 8.86 seconds, the fastest lap being 8.37 seconds, and the average lap time being 12.125 seconds. I'll put those numbers up at the end of the video, along with a focus of on the car. It's a beautiful little car. The AFX knocked it out of the park with all of their Ford GTs. They were all worth collecting, in my opinion. They're absolutely fantastic. I'm working my way through as many of them as I can. Right now, I believe I have 4 or 5 of them. I'm trying to collect the most significant historical cars that I can at first, before I just go on to whatever I like, and before I move on to really customizing my own cars, like I see some of my fellow hobbyists and enthusiasts doing online, both in 1/32 scale and 1/24 scale, and at the HO level. That's really where I'm headed. But you know, slow as it goes, because I don't have too many resources, and I am also a novice at all of this. So I really want to get the sense of how these cars work and what makes them tick and everything else. So I haven't done any slot car racing since the 1970s. I started again in late 2024, and then that was after sabbatical, one might call it. I believe the last time I raced an AFX car before 2024 was in 1978, and by that time I was already a young teenager in my teenage years, and I wasn't that interested in slot cars anymore. I lived up in New York City, and we played sports and, you know, dancing and sports and girls, and the things that my friends were more involved in. In any case, I still have a friend from back then. I have a couple of friends from back then, but one in particular that I invited over to race some cars, and he's coming over at some point. We're going to race some cars, and he still has his AFX cars from the 1970s. He showed them to me, and I said to him, "Wow, that's amazing." But he still keeps them, which makes sense. When I had to move and could not take my diecast collection with me, because I also collected and raced Hot Wheels and Matchboxes when I was back in the late 60s through the 70s as a kid, and along with AFX and Tyco cars and whatnot, sled cars back in the 70s. I gave him my collection to store for me because I knew he's a reliable guy, but I had no idea that he still had his AFX cars. And so of course now I've been collecting diecast for over 20 years, or actually a full 20 years as an adult. I've been collecting Hot Wheels and Matchbox and off-brand diecast at the HO scale, at the 1/62nd level scale. And more recently I went back to slot car racing and everything having to do with being a slot car enthusiast, including setting up this track, making it look like something. And the reason I've got it like this, making it look like kind of like a lagoon at the beach and that type of thing, is because that's where I live. I live and I grew up since the end of '78, when I came down from New York after 10 years in New York. I came down here to South Florida, and since then, outside of traveling for leisure and business, and I have lived elsewhere for leisure and business purposes, but since then, since the end of '78, basically my whole life has taken place down here, and it's been mostly the beach. Also, from about 1971 through 1978, we vacationed down here on Miami Beach, my family and I, once or twice a year, every year, until we moved down here. So, most of my life, and certainly my adult life, has been lived out here. And this is what this place looks like. If you're not from South Florida, you may not realize this is not a fancy thing in South Florida. This is how we live, in and out of the water everywhere, with canals and rivers and the beach everywhere. So I live about 3 miles from the beach, and I could walk there if I was healthy. And I live with a brackish water river right in front of my house, and everywhere around me there's water. So this is very much a reproduction of my neighborhood for the most part. And a mile away there is a state park that's mainly just hiking trails of mangroves and water. You can go canoeing and everything else. So that's why I created the EHZ Beach Raceway, and my diorama looks like it looks like, because that's where we are. And you notice there are no mountains, with the exception of the little rock over there for the gorilla and the wild animals and the Animal House Belushi reproduction, because that's how it is down here. It's all flat. Very rarely, there's some places where, and you go to a park, you might find a rock or something, but other than that, that's it. That parking lot is a die-cast parking lot that I created, and it's like that because if you're from here, you know, back in the 70s, South Beach, where I lived for many years, and I partied and grew up for many years, as far as my social life. In the 70s, South Beach, First Street Beach, which is South Point Park, had the tallest structure down there was a parking lot, just like that one. It wasn't such a great place. We used to park there. All the high school kids, we used to park there and drink beer and park our cars and race and you know, do what kids do at that age, you know, then go out to the beach and you know, frolic around on the beach. I mean, this is the life that this is reproducing at this point. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for watching, and keep supporting the diecast and slot car racing and collecting enthusiasts on YouTube and industry. Have a great day.